August 30th, 1944. Somewhere near the Belgian frontier, a line of U.S. Army cargo trucks churned through ankle-deep mud under the cover of night. Lightning flashed across a starless sky, followed by the roar of thunder and rain pelting the canvas tarps. These weren't ordinary supply convoys. The engines growled too urgently, tires slipping on the rutted track as drivers peered through rain-spattered windshields. They were heading west, away from the front, bound for a huge dump of fuel under First Army control. But these men weren't mundane transport crews. They were on a secret order, straight from General George S. Patton himself. They'd scraped off Third Army emblems, hidden their shoulder patches, repainted bumper codes. Their paperwork was forged to perfection. According to the official story, they were First Army drivers en route to relocate fuel to the forward dumps. In reality, they intended to strip 500,000 gallons of gasoline from U.S. stockpiles and spirit it back to Patton's thirsty columns. If caught by military police or court-martial boards, they'd be branded thieves. But to Patton, it wasn't theft. It was necessity. His tanks were silent, engines cold, waiting for a shipment that would never arrive. Supreme HQ had rerouted every drop north to General Montgomery's 21st Army Group. Patton's furious retort, "My men can eat their belts, but my tanks have got to have gas." To understand how far Patton would go, we need to feel the war's velocity at the end of August. Following the bloody slog through Normandy's hedgerows, Allied forces finally burst free. The Third Army led the charge, galloping east at unprecedented speed, 20 miles a day, sometimes 40, even 60. They liberated Paris on August 25th, crossed the Seine, and were racing toward Germany itself. But this beast of war gulped fuel like water. A single Sherman tank managed barely 1 mile per gallon, and Patton's command included thousands of tanks, motor transports, ambulances, half-tracks, and jeeps. Day to day, the Third Army burned through roughly 350,000 gallons of gasoline. In battle, consumption soared to nearly 450,000 gallons. Supplies poured in from the Normandy beaches, 200 miles to the south, hauled by the relentless Red Ball Express, convoys running day and night. Yet even that river of trucks couldn't quench Patton's engine. Then politics intervened. On August 29th, at Supreme Headquarters in Versailles, Eisenhower faced a stark choice. Feed Monty's push in the north for Operation Market Garden, or keep Patton's tanks rolling toward the German frontier. Montgomery promised one decisive thrust into Belgium and Holland that would cut Germany in two, potentially ending the war by Christmas. Patton insisted his force, already ripping across the map, could reach the Rhine in 2 days with just 400,000 gallons. Eisenhower opted to prioritize Monty. Fuel shipments shifted north. The Third Army's pipeline ran dry. Patton's headquarters, perched near Verdun, exploded in fury. He slammed his fist onto a war map. "They're broken, Brad. This is the time to crush them." He banged his fist again. "Every hour we wait gives the Reich time to breathe." He turned to General Omar Bradley. "Give me 400,000 gallons this instant. I'll be across that river by dawn." But Bradley, pinned by orders from the top, could only shake his head. "Ike's decree stands, George. It all goes to Monty." By August 31st, Third Army vehicles littered the approaches to the Moselle. The once thundering columns were dead in the mud. Tank commanders sat atop their hulks, cigarettes clamped between their teeth, staring east toward a frustrated enemy digging in. Hour by hour, German panzers and infantry took breath and fortified the far bank. Patton toured the immobilized units, his silver helmet gleaming in the rain, face flushed with rage. This wasn't battle, it was bureaucratic strangulation. That night, he scribbled in his journal, "To sit and wait is murder." He summoned his chief of staff, General Hobart Gay, and the top supply officers. He didn't ask for options, he issued a command. "Find me gas. I don't care where it comes from. If it takes stealing from our own, do it." The officers exchanged glances. They knew what their boss demanded. By dawn, an illicit operation was underway. Patton's intelligence section pinpointed a vast reserve of gasoline well behind First Army lines, General Courtney Hodges's domain. Hodges's men had been told to slow down, yet they sat on a stockpile in jerry cans and 45-gallon drums. Under orders to conceal their Third Army affiliation, Patton hand-picked a provisional truck company. Tough sergeants who knew their way around a load, lie with a straight face, and run tires through mud at high speed. At dusk, 25 olive-drab trucks rolled away from Third Army headquarters, headlights masked, vehicles repainted to First Army hues. Each driver clutched falsified movement orders signed with a forged supply colonel's signature. They wended north in pouring rain, skirting military police roadblocks. At every checkpoint, they claimed, "First Army supply convoy relocating fuel to forward dumps." The MPs waved them through without hesitation. 3 hours later, they arrived at the depot, a sprawling field of drums and canvas tents, lightly guarded. The quartermaster on duty was a tired lieutenant who glanced at the documents, eyebrows lifting at the urgent stamp from Supreme Headquarters. "Load 'em up," he muttered, assuming this was a routine emergency transfer. In pitch darkness, Patton's men plunged hoses from drums into tanks. Jerry cans clanged on bed rails, lights flickered as gauges registered the poured-in fuel. Over the next 4 hours, they siphoned out 500,000 gallons, the equivalent to a full armored division's week of operations. They also helped themselves to spare tracks, rations, maps, even a few medical crates. By first light, the convoy lurched south again, engines coughing under the heavy load, but moving. They skirted dawn patrols, raced past sleepy traffic controllers, and crossed back into Third Army territory. At Patton's command post, a half-dozen staff officers waited. Tanks lined up at makeshift pumps, while the trucks discharged their cargo into massive storage bladders. Patton himself stood in the mud, rain dripping from his helmet brim. He watched the men offload jerry cans, heard the gurgle of fuel lines filling Sherman belly tanks. Hooded by the storm, he cracked a rare grin. "Load the tanks. We roll in 1 hour." Morning brought chaos to First Army supply. Empty drums and vanished jerry cans triggered alarm. Quartermasters ripped through files, demand logs, convoy manifests, delivery receipts, but the numbers didn't add. 500,000 gallons simply evaporated. Reports of ghost drivers and strange trucks passed along the chain. By noon, clues pointed unmistakably to Patton's Third Army. Meanwhile, Patton stood at his tactical map, plotting the attack. Omar Bradley arrived, a frown on his face. He reminded Patton of the standing halt order. "George, you've no fuel. Orders are orders." Patton looked contrite. "Well, Brad, we've been scouting local sources." Bradley glared. "Local? There's nothing within 100 miles. Patton tipped his head. "You'd be surprised how resourceful my boys can be." Bradley's jaw clenched. He knew the general was hiding something. But the map told a story. Patton's spearheads were already pushing towards the Moselle's west bank. Just then, a radio crackled. "Lead elements have engaged the enemy near Pont-à-Mousson." Bradley's eyes flicked between Patton and the map. "You're attacking?" Patton shrugged, voice flat. "Thought I'd give him a hello." Bradley exhaled. He had no choice. "All right, George, but if you get bogged down, don't expect a rescue." Patton saluted. Understood. With that, Third Army roared back to life. Tanks rolled across the river under curtain fire of artillery. Infantry waded through shallows. Engineers laid portable bridges. The Germans, caught off guard, had believed Patton immobile for days. Their lines were thin, defenses lightly manned. By nightfall, Patton's force had established a bridgehead. The city of Nancy fell shortly thereafter. Metz followed. That stolen fuel had brought the shock of surprise and critical momentum. At Supreme Headquarters, Eisenhower received word of the sudden advance. He was furious. His priority order had been blatantly violated, yet units were in combat, tanks flowing east, and withdrawing supply would risk collapse. Bradley defended the action, arguing Patton's push might fracture German resistance. Ike stared at the map, clenched his pipe. No amount of reprimand could reverse success. In the months to come, historians debated the Great Patton fuel heist. Some called it reckless insubordination. Others hailed it as bold leadership that turned supply politics on its head. Market Garden's failure up north only sharpened the question. Had Eisenhower misallocated resources? If that 500,000 gallons had stayed with Montgomery, could Arnhem have succeeded? Could the war have ended in 1944? We'll never know. What we do know is that George S. Patton, soldier, poet, thief, saw the path to victory and refused to let paperwork stand in its way. There's a famous photograph from that rainy morning. Patton, mud-spattered, sleeves rolled up, leaning against a Sherman, a silver tank shell in his hand, eyes blazing with purpose. He wasn't driven by medals or glory. He was driven by one unyielding conviction: kill the enemy, keep moving, win the war. And if that required bending every rule, including stealing from your own supply depot, so be it. Was Patton right to filch fuel and forge orders to press the attack, or should he have obeyed his superiors and halted? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this tale of the defiant general, please like and subscribe for more untold chapters of World War II history. Thanks for watching.